couldn't, and there still is, you know, it was just that I wasn't ready to stop getting paid to do what came naturally to me. I wanted a gig where I could work every week. You know, everything serves a purpose. If it's not applicable then, or in the immediate future, it will be way down the line. Hard work pays off in its own time and in different places, and it will surprise you. You know, it's almost a karmic thing. You know, I just put enough into it, and I can't be like laid to waste. And then something at the 11th hour will come and grab you by the seat of your pants and save you. That's what I believe, you know, because I was always willing to work hard and help other people, you know, that were interested in something that I might have to teach them. But yeah, I mean, coming up with Fry, and my academia background and my music background, listening to music is very applicable, and melodies to character work, because every character has their own melody. Did you see the documentary, I Know That Voice?
Yes! Yes!
That's kind of what the theme of it was. A lot of us guys, like Tom Kenny and me, we talked often about how, you know, if you couldn't dial up Yogi Bear's voice, suppose you got hired to do Yogi Bear. You do Yogi Bear? Yeah, I do. And once you get hired, suppose you can't dial it up intellectually. You just think of the melody of the character, which was you could fill a scale, you could fill a staff with those notes. And every character had their own rhythm. And Tom talks about that a lot. I know I did. Yeah, and that's how you never forget a character that you did. I mean, I liked mimicking characters. It was a skill that, you know, that was helpful to me, but truly I wanted to create characters. That's the real, you know, you become a footnote if you're a mimic. Sorry to say, I mean, there's some people that are incredible at mimicking voices, but that's as far as it goes until you're given the opportunity to have your own career. So I guess, you know what, wrong or right, all the mistakes I made, and I never learned anything from success. I never did. I only learned from like those times when it's like, oh God, what have I done? You know, and you learn and you temper things, and then one day somebody says, you want to try this character, and I would take a good look at it, and from everything I learned in my life, all my experiences, good and bad, bad decisions, good decisions, would help me arrive at what I was looking at. Because I understood myself and I understood other people. I was a trained observer, you know, like a cop when I was a kid. I used to just watch everybody and everything. And I felt disenfranchised, truly. You know, because anything I was into was not anything anybody understood. So I had a hard time in school, except for the girls that wanted to mother me. And said, but you're very smart. It's like, I know, I'm doomed to be the friend and never your boyfriend. I want to be that ape, that asshole that just brings you home some beer. What, you want food? I can't do everything. It's so funny. But you gotta be true to what you are, you know, I never changed. I wouldn't like demote myself morally or spiritually or intellectually to fit in. You know, it's cold out there alone. If you have a good idea about things and you have concepts, you know, I mean, they're going to stay that until you actually have the drive and determination to, by your work, convince others that, hey, this is the way to go. This is new. This is what we're looking for. So that's what I meant about, you know, whether you went to school or not. It was from knowing people, and that helps the acting. I just wanted to be very natural, and I wanted those characters to have more than a two-dimensional personality. You know, that it wasn't just this witty little voice and everything. I wanted there to be so much heart and soul in them. And I used to sit and deliberate over any assignment I got, and I just thought, what would attract people to this character? Even if he's a crumbum like Zapp Brannigan. You know, I had to find something that, if not quite redeemed him, edified your life because you would laugh so hard at his nonsense and inappropriateness. That's the way I always look at everything. Yes, ma'am, down the back.
What's your favorite character to play?
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I would love to tell you, but I can't because I put so much into everything I ever did. Nothing was a throwaway as far as I'm concerned. You know, I wanted it to be evergreen.
Okay, well, what's your least favorite character?
I'm sorry? I didn't know I was being cross-examined. I like your diction.
He's good at interrupting people.
Who is? Oh, yeah? I got ADHD. It's treatable. If I had a nickel for every time I interrupted somebody, I'd be living with Donald Trump somewhere. His houses. No, I found out at like, I'm 63 years old. I just found out half a year ago that I had ADHD. And my friends burst out laughing when I told them, hey, guess what? I got ADHD. And they're like, you paid someone to tell you that? And I had OCD. I had all the initials, you know, going against me. So I'm not making fun of you. I actually am watching myself when you do that. So yes, you had a particular point and you had good inertia behind it. So let me pay attention to it now. Go ahead.
Me?
Yes. Do you have HD and he has the other one?
The other one.
I just never knew before now that you actually have ADHD. I just didn't it's surprisingly possible for someone to get into the industry despite that.
Yeah, what do you think it is? It's all that.
Yeah, really.
I'm telling you the truth, it's all that. You know, that it's like if you're artistic in some way, you might not be able to tie your shoe. I never could. I never learned the right way.
And yet you are one of the most highly respected and known voice actors.
Woo!
I'm not comparing myself to Albert Einstein or anything, but he couldn't type. You know, and that was the only way you could write, unless you scribbled it and had someone else type it for you. He had trouble with stuff like neckties and tying a shoe. He couldn't drive a car. But he had a direct funnel, you know, to some place that no one knew of or how to get there, and his mind was so concentrated in one area. It's like God doesn't give everybody everything, but there is something within you that is so highly concentrated. And I'm talking about everybody that has these things, you know. And then you find out most of the time that it's like, oh, your body was missing $1.88 worth of chemicals, you know, and that's why you're screwed up. You know, so getting treatment is one thing, but I asked the doctor when I got diagnosed with depression and low levels, you know, high-level anxiety. I had it my whole life. I just had no idea. I always felt like I wanted to die when I should be celebrating, and you know, I couldn't enjoy it while it was going on. But it's only because I was missing a few things that kind of you're supposed to be born with, like, you know, your wells of endorphins. They're empty. It's like, oh, nothing. It's only the shit that makes you have a sense of well-being. You know, so you try to fill it up in every other way by concentrating on whether it's a superhero or a TV show, and then eventually dropping all your barriers and wanting to become part of it somehow. Because everything else doesn't make sense. You know, you see things in your head. They don't exist right now except to you. But left to your own devices, and if someone gives you the center stage to go do it, you'll create something that did not exist until you did it. That's the beauty of all those things. That it's like ADHD, all that. That's what caused me to focus in on people. OCD. I used to crystallize concentration on one thing and ignore everything else. I couldn't tell you what day it was sometimes. Because everything else would be like, no, this is the important thing.
You can do amazing.
I think, you know, I asked the doctor before the treatment, 50 I've never
pay
had
attention to
chronic
details,
low-level
but
depression
now people
and free-form anxiety.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
oh, that's why.
When
You
you
know,
can't tune
I used to
things
think
out,
everybody had that except that I was a pussy.
Tiring.
Everybody else
It's
is
exhausting,
fine. You're
but it's a
this,
good
you're
thing.
way wrong. You have no idea. It's crushing. It really is. You just don't know. And I asked the doctor, I said, listen, I gotta ask you something. You wanna give me the stuff that will free me from like pain, mental anguish, sleeplessness, to deal with my staggered breathing. I always felt, I would think of something that happened 22 years ago and go, you know, as if it just happened.
Yep.
And you're all out of whack. And I said, what if this stuff, you gave it to the slaves in the early days of this country? And out there picking cotton, and they're bleeding, and they're hardship, they're starving. And the only way they could handle their pain was to sing it out in a 12-bar form. They created a style of music, the 12-bar blues. And it came from anguish and pain and torture. I said to the guy, what if you treated them with all this stuff and everything, and it just was endurable for them? Would blues have ever been invented? Would we get jazz? Would we get rock and roll? You know, maybe if they did, all the House of Blues would just disappear like in, you know, Back to the Future. There wouldn't have been any of that stuff. So they're tough questions about taking it. And he said, it's a very good question. You know, it's all academic. And I said, well, I'm just asking. And he said, all I can tell you is that I work with artists, I treat them, I deal with them and everything, and he said that they report that they did the best work of their life through a filter that wasn't covered with shit. You know, because everything you think isn't beautiful. You know, you're not the beautiful mind. Sometimes it's coming through this filter of, like, you know, garbage and fear and anxiety and everything. So if that's lifted, you're going to do what you were meant to do. So, yes.
You were talking about how you were growing up. Sorry, this is going back a little bit, but you were talking about.
Wait a minute. You upended things. No, I thought he was going to. Go ahead first, and then I'll get you.
Okay. Going on with your inspiration from radio, you were talking about being free to create despite people being like, oh, I don't think you should have said that. What was your experience like getting on and working on the Howard Stern show?
Well, I knew who he was, and I heard he was ripping it up in radio, so instantly I'm attracted to that energy. Radio was filled with these soggy, stained, filthy, mothball-ridden, you know, ideas.
Yeah.
You know, excuse me, program director. Yes. Why do I have to keep telling people what time it is and what the temperature is? Because that's the way it's always been done. Can't somebody just like look outside or look at a watch or look at a clock? You know, what is that all about? And the guy would short circuit because he was just like a hamster on a treadmill or habit trail or whatever you call it. And Stern was the guy that just refused to do those things. And by engaging the program director in a psychology battle of what's right and wrong, he created programming, new programming. To hear something real going on the radio, sign me up. You know, I don't want to hear the bright, happy, sunny guy. I want to talk about the guy that's like sexually going crazy because he doesn't have anything going with his wife anymore, and then there's the babysitter, and, you know, and just saying stuff like, you know, he would fart in the microphone, and I thought, that's not just to be gross. That, to me, was a collective F-U to the industry. You know, like, it truly was. It was like saying F-U to all the establishment and all the rules. You used to be able to play your own record choices, you know, depending on the day, or if it was a historical day, or just even if you felt a certain way. But then they didn't trust talent with that, so they had to co-opt everything and give them playlists. You know, no, this is what you play, here's when you play it. And they started to kill a beautiful living thing by co-opting it, you know, and just thinking, well, we can turn it on and off. But people aren't like that. You know, people are not like that. You know, it's crazy when you watch a morning show and they'll go, you know, we have a great recipe for blueberries coming up when we come back. And we have some pictures of blown up bodies from Kabul, all when we come back. You know, it's like, that's crazy. That's schizophrenia. And it made me uncomfortable to watch how blithely they made segues, because the segue was more important to the programmers. You know, it got all messed up. It got all backwards. It was about, radio was something that made people laugh, it made people cry. Before there was television, there were dramas on the radio that people would, you know, dab their eyes and listen. They'd be all in the living room listening to this big wooden box with a green light on it. that was the tail end of that stuff when I was a kid. People still sort of did that. But to go to the Stern Show, I mean, I love Rule Breakers. So I went in there and they play rough in there. I had to change my whole set of, values as far as what I could say and what I couldn't say. And, it felt great to have suddenly this freedom because if Howard liked you, you were bulletproof. And he used to call on me all the time and he'd be screaming racists and, if we're trying to point out the grotesqueness of racism, there'd be a screaming racist woman from Boston, on there, and it would be me, of course. And I would say the most foul, horrible things, but they were so put on and so, it was like, I don't know what you'd call it. It's like it became accidental comedy because people would wind up laughing at that type of person who has that audacity and fear and loathing to say those things. And the worse you forced it, it's like talking about how certain people should be strung up by their big toes and beaten to death with an organic carrot, because I'm a vegan now. Anything absurd like that, and it worked beautifully. So that was the kind of freedom we had. And I would see the program director looking like he wanted to rip his hair out, peeking in the window, because he had no control. This uncreative, bloodless, artless, godless little F suddenly had no control of a portion of his world. And that gave me the best satisfaction. I said, this is a dream killer sitting out there. A 5'7" little micromanaging dream killer, soul killer. And they were like, to me it was like enemy camps. Because it was non-creative, it was non-conducive to any kind of art. I still to this day don't know how, like on one side of the table you've got people that understands and what it feels like to have an idea. And then on the other side of the table, in suits and ties, are a bunch of people that don't know what it feels like to have an idea. And how they ever get together is a mystery to me, but it happens, and that's why it works the way it does. Yes? Yes, that giant arm that I see. What's that? Oh, I will, I'm sorry. Persnickety, aren't you?
I have a question regarding basically. Sorry, I don't know.
Let's all talk at once. No, come on, everybody just talk.
What? He said everybody talk at once.
All right, let's go with you first, and then you.
Blah, blah, blah.
You're not in a big hurry, are you? Where are you going? Go eat cotton candy and free Chinese rice? Sorry. Yeah.
I work in radio. I work at a news radio station in my hometown. I'm currently doing voiceover work. I do radio commercials, and I've done a couple of radio dramas. And I've known for a long time that voice acting is the thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
I've seen your the I Know That voice documentary. I have done a ton of research. I've taken classes, the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
And so my question to you is, like, with doing radio commercials and working in radio, it would mean the world to me if I could get your advice on what to do in order to take the next big step towards voice acting.
Where do you live?
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Heard of it? No, I mean, I was born in Detroit, so. Grand Rapids, this becomes a realization after a while. Boston, Massachusetts is not the entertainment capital of the world, nor is Grand Rapids. You have to go to these media meccas, and you have to plan your moves because, like I said, it's cold out there alone. When I was growing up, my own friends would ignore it. I would work on something real hard to impress them, and they would ignore me. And I wish some big adult could have put their head in the middle of this situation and said, do you know why they don't acknowledge you at all? Because you are a constant and painful reminder of what they will never, ever be able to do. How do you think they're going to act like it? I said, is that simple?
I
mean, I always had to go back and cry and whine about how I gotta be better and I want to be a superlative, just so my friends will like me. It wasn't that at all. But the people around you, it's like, you know, when you explain what it is you want to do to the average person, it's like explaining a desert to a polar bear. You know, it's like this, and it's hot, and it's brown, and, you know, it's cold out there alone. And so, plan your moves, have long-term goals. But the other thing is move to a place. I hate to say that so starkly, and, you know, it sounds like I have no emotion, but it was tough to rip away from what was familiar. But you develop this love of the unfamiliar only because you have the ability to embrace it. You know? It's like sometimes people press the self-destruction button when they become successful because it's almost everything they never wanted. I mean, they thought they did, but some people can't handle when it happens and all that. There's a million talents that have done that. You spend a lot of time deliberating, work on your craft, run around reading everything you can. I used to watch telenovelas, you know, because I didn't understand it per se, but I love the fact that the dynamics were the way they were, so dramatic. You know, the young daughter would be in the kitchen with her mother, and the mother would be, you know, comforting her because, you know, the bad guy, her boyfriend, you know, treats me like I don't exist, like I don't know, it's terrible. And the mother would be like, you know, see, and then the grandmother would be over here. She'd be like, ¿dónde esté? Nosotros tenemos un hombre que it's always like that dynamic, but it tells you how close they are as family in real life. You gotta understand all of these things, even if it doesn't make sense to you. You know, surreal can become very real. And you find a way to align yourself in some kind of ideology that you're open to everything. You should be like a satellite dish. New York was great to live because when I walked down the street, I could hear every voice on the planet. I swear to God, I could hear everything. And I was like a dish, picking it all up. And, you know, that's where you get ideas from. You learn that there's these different vehicles, these types of people. And you can throw your own twist to it. It's like, that's the reward, is being creative. And charging as much as the traffic will bear. Don't be stupid. Don't, you know, expect people, you know, to laugh while they're stealing your shoes, you know? You gotta work for yourself. And then when you're together, your ideas are together, and you're successful, you can help somebody else. And, because you understand it, you know the road they're about to rock. And you've been there, so you could say little things. I hope it was helpful to you.
Yes, it was.
Really?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wait, the guy...
So, I actually kind of,
Could you speak up just a little?
sure, I kind of have a twofold question.
Yes?
It's okay, we'll get to talk.
One following the other. How do you feel about kind of the impact of having, like, internet memes, all the fraud stuff? This term, basically, for you called Zoidberging. It's when we go up to him and ask him to do something that he realizes, oh, this is a terrible idea, and he'll put his hands up like lobster claws and then stumble away. Do you think we can get that in the dictionary?
I can't take credit for that stuff. You know, I mean, I'm a performer. I could be a dramatic performer or a comedic performer, but it was the writers that came up with these just new ideas of thinking about